I know, another video about Helldivers 2. This game is the first game in a very long time that has given me the same feeling that I used to get when playing Black Ops 2, Destiny, or The Division on launch. So I knew as someone who had claimed in previous video essays that gaming is dead in value and that multiplayer games suck now, that I needed to at least give my piece on this game and explain why I'm loving it so much in comparison to other games out there. Before we do jump into it though, make sure to hit the subscribe button. This is the second channel, so I'm uploading anything I want gaming related to this one. For anyone wondering, my Skyrim revisit video will be out very soon. It's still in the works, and if you do want to support the channel any further, get early access to videos on this channel and the main channel, then make sure to check out the Patreon as well. Now though, let's discuss Helldivers 2. I only originally found out about this game due to Instagram Reels. It looked really cool, but honestly I had zero clue what it was or what was going on. It looked like Star Wars had met Halo ODST, and if one of those franchises had done this exact same game, I'd be throwing my money at it. I did some research into this game just before purchasing it, and I said to myself that I'd wait at least, a month or so for the server issues to be sorted and maybe some extra gameplay elements to be added. However, one of my friends pulled the trigger, so I had to dive in with him. The best possible way to explain why this game is blowing up is with 5 words. It's just fun to play. The gameplay feels fluid, it takes itself seriously enough in its functionality, but doesn't in its presentation in the game world. It's stressful but easy to understand, and it's got a goofiness sprinkled in all over the game in the name of democracy. The gameplay itself is pretty simple to understand. You just launch into an area and basically do space racism. We have guns that never feel as if they're too overpowered, and everything has a level of trade-off. One of the most obvious examples is the first LMG that you unlock, as you have to just stay still whilst reloading. You can only get one RPG shot at a time before having to go back and pick up another one, and for me, one of my favourite heavy weapons to use right now is the anti-material rifle, which is a sniper, and it just absolutely decimates everything. It's not just the guns though, you can also call in airstrikes, mini nukes, napalm strikes, and much more. It's just a fun experience that makes you feel like a complete badass. If its concept was to be summed up, I would literally just say it is as if a 10-year-old had walked in and they decided that they wanted to have their dream aspect of an action film made into a game. It's pretty much like the War for Cybertron or Fighting the Flood in Halo, and it's just made as if it is like a 10-year-old boy's dream. The game makes you feel as if you are absolutely obliterating everything, but it also has a level of challenge to it that doesn't make it feel as if you're completely decimating everything in your wake. One point I've heard raised is this game's way of making you feel as if you're a nobody, which I think works right now. However, I don't believe it's always necessarily a good thing, as sometimes not being a nobody is actually giving you many benefits to what you can do later on with the game's gameplay systems and future releases of DLC and whatnot. What it allows is for us to do whatever we want without feeling as if we're being limited by the character that we are playing. Instead, we just end up being a lover of liberty and are willing to die for democracy. However, it also does mean that if you're trying to get people hooked into the world itself and maybe add future updates around the game's lore and, the characters themselves, it ends up basically feeling as if you're just playing someone who just wants to go and kill robots instead of having any form of personality to them. For some games it does work, for this game it does seem to be working. However, again, we'll see if the longevity aspect of that is going to keep it going. I also know that many people are going to be put off of playing this game just for the main fact that it is a live service game, and we've seen plenty of them come out and we've seen the state of them on release, or at least until now, of most of them being absolutely awful. This game doesn't push you to spend money. You can gain access to the paid-for version of what is their battle pass, even though they're naming it completely different, throughout the free version and collecting the credits throughout the game. What is a little bit disappointing is that outside of cosmetic changes, a lot of the armor throughout the free version and paid-for version are not really that interesting. They don't add too many attributes. They add some, but for the most part, many of them end up just becoming the same thing. The only reason that I can find why people might be fine with this idea is that it's not pay to win and it's avoiding the concept altogether. However, when the game is almost entirely PvE and only can be PvP if you just start shooting each other in friendly fire, that's the only way, there's no actual match for PvP, then, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if people can pay to win to an extent through things like a battle pass and whatnot. It's not really pay to win when you can get it through the game anyway. It just means that people can pay and then just slowly gain access to it, because it's not like you don't have to spend tons of credits anyway to get access to the upgrades down the line. And the main reason why I'm mentioning this is that I would prefer to have more variety in ability instead of variety in looks. That's the general issue that I have with many live service games, is that they kind of do this idea of just having cosmetics instead of having anything that adds to the ability of the character. Now I wanted to take a moment to talk about the longevity of this game. Now I am very early doors into this game, and I do understand that I've probably not experienced everything, but I do believe that I've experienced enough of the gameplay loop to understand how it works. You go do missions, you then get a higher difficulty, so that you can achieve higher levels and get better gear. Then you get a harder difficulty again, and then you can just repeat this cycle over and over again until what will eventually just be a maxed out level of gear and abilities that you can use. However, all of this hinges on one main thing, which is that people don't get bored of the locations, the enemies, and the gameplay itself. The gameplay loop is fun, however most games out there that are mediocre, and I'm not saying this game is, I'm just stating that many games that are mediocre can keep you hooked for 30 to 50 hours, and you think the gameplay loop is good, and then you realise at that 50-hour mark that it's really not. So it is the case that I do think that they're going to be walking into territories of the unknown after that. If you don't have a good variety of things to do that feel meaningful to the player, then people will slowly be pulled away and go and play other games. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the one thing I don't want for this game is it to become another Destiny 2, where you just load into the character menu, get bored, and log off. For me, this game truly thrives in its live service department. They just need to focus a bit more on bringing a few bits of extra content that doesn't feel meaningless to the game. I have some really basic things that I would also like added outside of those other bigger things that I mentioned. The first being bounties, kind of similar to what we got within Destiny 1. They could add a couple different factions within the loving army of the democracy, and they could then give us classic bounties like we had in Destiny, where it's like kill 50 of this enemy type, or they could even give us more specific and harder enemies to go out and fight. I'd also like to see some cosmetic changes to the ship, where you can kind of make your own ship a bit more unique and, you know, add to that level of just customization for your player's ship in general. And talking about customization for the player, I also would like to see, like we have within Destiny with shaders, is that ability in this game so that, you know, they aren't all just random colors that don't match each other unless you buy the whole set. And on top of that, it just means that everyone can have their own individuality instead of everyone looking like the same basic character, from your basic noob who looks the exact same as everyone else to the very sweaty players who eventually will all just look the exact same. Now this game is extremely fun and it has a lot of promise. However, the future of this game will be determined in the next couple of months with whatever they do with those core functions that I mentioned, but also some of those extra little bits and details that they can add to this game to make it a little bit more fun and unique for each player. Anyway, with that all being said, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, do subscribe for more content moving forward. I do upload hopefully every single week on this channel. I aim to anyway, I can't promise anything, but it is the case that if you want to get early access to videos like these and others as well, check out the Patreon down below. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.